Hi all, and welcome back to the channel. Recently, some friends and I started doing the Thames from source to sea over a series of leisurely day trips. We're doing about one a fortnight and hoping to canoe most of the river, but for this first stretch we really had little choice but to walk, as you'll see. So here's the group that went. We've got, starting on the left, Joe, Charlotte, Mary, Gary, Fluff and myself. And we were going for a silly headwear theme. So I've got a bow on my head, and you can see Mary's got a Robin Hood hat on, but she took that off almost immediately, and then it was just me in fancy dress. So here's our route. We started at the green pin, and the source is at the red circle, so you can't park right at the source, but luckily there was a lay-by pretty close. So here's the source, the official source at least. It's just a pile of stones really, with no indication that there could be any river there, no riverbed or anything, apart from a big stone monument. But anyway, this was the official source, so off we set. We didn't get very far to start with because Gary thought he hadn't locked the car and then he needed to tie his shoelaces, but eventually we did actually get underway properly. After about 1 kilometre of walking, we finally found something that looked like riverbed. Still no sign of any actual water, but at least it looked like we were heading in the right direction. We found some really convincing looking stretches of riverbed. No sign of any actual water, but it looked like there had been some at some point. We even found our first tributary, completely dry, but obviously another riverbed flowing, as it were, into what nominally was the Thames. So our search continued until finally we found our first bit of water. I'm not sure I'd call this actual Thames. It's clearly not connected to any other bit of river. It just seems more of a pond than anything, but it was at least water. So at this point we're about 2.5 kilometres from the source, and we've just found our first bit of water. Not actual convincing river yet, but water at least. There were a few more puddles and ponds, but eventually we finally found what looked like it might be the start of the river proper. At this point we're about 4 kilometres from the source, and it looks like we've finally found the river proper. And it stayed looking that way for some time. We walked along quite a bit of convincing looking river. We found a weir, some swans. It was all looking very convincing. But unfortunately, a bit further downstream, we also found what looks like a complete river blockage. So maybe that wasn't Thames, maybe that was just a really big puddle or pond. We're nearly 6 kilometres from the source here, but this was the last break we saw in the Thames. Admittedly, we didn't see a whole heap of the Thames for this next section, but we did see lots of nice fields and some crops growing. We even saw a snake. I've never seen a snake before in the wild, but one of our group members nearly trod on it and it quickly slithered out of the way. From this point on, the river really looked like it was well established. Still not deep enough to float a boat on, but that's why we're walking this section. After a while, we came to the town of Ashton Keynes, which was beautiful, really pretty, but unfortunately it also marked the point at which we made a massive detour from the Thames. You can see on this map the blue is the path we walked, and the green is where the Thames actually flows. So we spent quite some time walking through some very nice well-kept fields and some scrubland. We walked past reservoirs, but it was a while until we got back to what we'd actually come for, the River Thames. We're quite close to Cricklade here, so to see all those reeds was a bit disheartening. We're meant to be canoeing from Cricklade. If it's anything like this, we've got quite a fight on our hands. Unfortunately, that was more or less the last we saw of the river, as from this point on we ended up walking through town to get back to the car park where we'd left the cars. So there we go, that was our walk from the official source of the Thames down to Cricklade. We're going to be canoeing from Cricklade down, and hopefully I'll be putting out a video every 2 weeks with our latest trip. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video please hit like and subscribe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.